Today was going to be a full day for Dakota. He's getting better at allowing himself to be touched with various objects all over, and yielding appropriately. I don't want Dakota to fear any of the tools I use, but he does need to respect them. So I rub him with the stick, but then I ask him to yield away from it. After rubbing him all over with the stick, I then let loose the attached rope to work on tossing it over his back. I want him to connect that what I just rubbed him with is the same thing I'm tossing over his back. He has no need to fear it. Many people call this type of work desensitizing. I don't like to think of it that way. I don't want Dakota to become less sensitive. I still want to be able to flick my hand and have him respond. What is different is my intent. I want him to relax and not move when I am tossing the rope over him with no intent, no suggestion that he move. But when I want him to move, I direct energy and intent at him, and he should move. So rather than desensitizing him, I feel more like I am showing him the difference between when I am asking him to do something and when I'm just being a clumsy human. Dakota is still quite sensitive and reacts very strongly to some suggestions. As I work with him here on lunging around me, I try to reward his small efforts to go the direction I ask, in an attempt to say, "That's good enough. You don't need to keep going." Considering he really doesn't know anything about going in a circle, he's only done it a few times, he is remarkably well behaved. He responds to the lightest of tugs on the line. Now for backing. Everyone has a different way to teach a horse backing. I like to take my thumbs and push them into the horse's chest. With some horses, this can take a fair amount of strength, but usually they respond pretty fast. Once they even lean backwards, I remove the pressure. Pretty soon, they step backwards. Even after just 2 repetitions, Dakota responds softly to my request for backing up. Another important skill I like to teach any horse is a head down cue. I want to be able to ask the horse to lower their head. This isn't exactly natural, and most horses will only do it when they trust who they are with. With their head lowered, horses can't see very well, so they have to have a lot of trust in their human. Like all the other yields, I wait until Dakota gives even slightly, then I release. Pretty soon he will be dropping his head when asked. I also pair this request with a verbal head down. I use it with my domestic horse Picasso while grazing. Picasso also knows head up. This was Dakota's first full body brushing. He didn't even care. He loved it. I started Aries off today with a bit of bribery. I've had so many people tell me, "He who brings the grain is God." Someone needs to explain that to Aries. He is so far unmoved by my generous offering of yummy grain. I have edited down this section. What you see here took place over maybe 20 or 30 minutes. He was happy to eat the grain, so long as I wasn't very close to it. I have been working more on getting closer and closer to Aries, getting him more and more comfortable with my proximity. He is still quite nervous, but he allows me to get within about a foot of his nose, as long as I keep my hands down. If I want to raise my hand, I have to back away a little. I make sure to break up my close-in sessions with some movement. Aries is a pent-up ball of nervousness when I am close. By backing off and asking him to move a little, I can help him dissipate some of that tension. The way I like to think about it is, each time I get close and then back away, he thinks, "Hey, I'm not dead." The more times he thinks, "Hey, I survived," the more he will trust me. I hope. I am still so moved by his expression. Each time I get close enough to look straight into his eyes, I see such intelligence and hope. I wish you all could experience him in person. One day, I hope some of you will. Today I took Dakota on a stroll to the arena. As I've mentioned before, one of the best ways to bond with a horse is to go on walks. Dakota navigates ground poles like they're not even there. Now that Dakota knows the concept of backing up, I experiment to see if he will back up when I gesture with the stick. And he does. I was a little hesitant to lunge Dakota in the big ring, because he has taken off on me before. But I have to work on it sometime, so I tried, and he did wonderfully. Dakota is so sensitive to changes in the line that when I am trying to let more rope out so he can make a bigger circle, he feels it and turns in. So I hold the rope differently so I can drop slack instead of using his tension on the line to pull more rope out. We're still working on his stop. For now, I draw the line in and put some pressure on his hindquarters to move away. Here, Dakota is keeping his head in as a kind of evasion. I have to block his head and shoulders, telling him to go away, not come towards me. Only when he is perpendicular to me can he make a circle. Dakota is getting to the point to where he needs his feet trimmed. He is pretty good about picking up his feet now, but he needs to learn to keep them up and let them be pushed and pulled on. Here Dakota gets anxious and pulls away. I pick up his foot one more time, just for good measure. Today I started Aries off in the small pen, so I could work with the bamboo pole. I especially wanted to work with him on his left side, which he is still more reluctant to give. Even though Aries is quite jumpy, today he ended up letting me get closer than in days prior. I remain very calm and quiet even when he is running around. It does no good if both of us are running around in a panic. I make sure to reward each attempt on his part with a release. I want him to learn, yep, you give a little try, and I'll give a little space. The pole is a nice bridge between Aries and I. It allows him to get used to contact from me without it actually being me. As before, when he stops moving, I reward him by taking away the pole, and we both breathe for a minute. An interesting thing happens here, and speaks to the amount of focus Aries has when we work together. He swishes his tail and it moves the hay net against his leg. It so startled him he actually jumped in the air. Here, Aries actually let me touch his face. It was just barely with one of my knuckles, but it counts. He is so sensitive to every move I make, the orientation of my hand, whether I move 1 or 2 fingers. There will be a time when I get him to disregard these small changes, like I am teaching Dakota to do. But for now, it is what it is. Here I scratch his withers with the pole, hoping he associates it with mutual grooming. After so much close, intense work, I wanted to get Aries out into the big round pen so he could move around and stretch his legs. He lowered his head here, so I lowered mine to see what he would do.